tested this past August with the big storms that came through the town. You know, how do we improve our employee culture and hire good folks, retain good folks? You all are very influential on that. And you also talk about a lot of sustainability projects. Mark will talk a little bit about, you know, the community solar. You all were convinced we would sell that thing out pretty quick. It's almost there, and so thank you for telling us what we didn't really know at the time. So that's a really good input, and we have a lot of more programs like that in the future that we're looking forward to working with you all and getting input from you all. You know, we have 5 utilities now, serving over 500,000 people in Knoxville. So we have a lot of diversity and different things going on, and you all give us that perspective we need. I'll say thank you for that. And then, you know, some of you are coming back on for another term. Thank you for that. Some of you recommended other folks. Thank you for that. But I want to say thank you really from the nearest sincerely. Thank you for what you've been doing. The conversations have been valuable to us, will continue to be valuable to our board, and it helps us steer our boat in the right direction. As a parting gift, we do have a reusable Stanley, I guess it's Stanley brand, this is the hot thing, Community Advisory Panel mug that you can take with you as a thank you gift for you all. Appreciate that a whole lot. And like I said, you know, all of you are customers of ours, whether you have 1 to 5 utilities. So even after this meeting, if you need something, let us know. You know, we are not, you know, it's not the end of anything. It's just another step in the journey. And I want to say thank you for all that. So appreciate you all. And I'll turn it over to Kathy to say a few. Did I get you?
No.
I'll turn it back to Dawn. I'll give it to Dawn. Okay. Thank you for correcting me. I got it in a mouthful. Sorry. Dawn. Thank you very much.
We are going to hear from Kathy. We are pleased that Board Commissioner Kathy Hamilton is with us today, but she's going to close us out.
Oh, okay. We'll close out.
Right now, as Gabe mentioned, you have given a lot of input on a wide range of issues. And I'd like to recognize 2 very familiar faces, Mark Walker, who's the Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, and Tiffany Martin, the Vice President and Chief Customer Officer, and they're going to provide some updates on these projects. And I think we're starting with Tiffany, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Microphone on there. Thank you. As Gabe said, it's hard to believe that it's been 3 whole years, and I was just telling Terry as we walked in, the pandemic has made everything a blur from 2020, and so this panel definitely got to go through that blur of things. But I will say that you all accomplished and influenced a lot as we talked through topics, and we learned from perspectives that you all had for the communities that you represent. So we appreciate you all for engaging with us. It's been invaluable to us to learn about what the community and our customers think. And so today I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you all collaborated with us on and how they directly influenced some of the decisions that we made as we were enhancing programs or bringing on a program. And then Mark is going to pick up and talk about some of those things as well. So none of this will seem foreign to you all. You all were part of every bit of this, but we are hoping to provide some updates on some of the major topics that we talked about over this last 3 years. But again, just thank you so much, because it's been invaluable to us as a staff and the board as well. And one thing that, as we started this panel, was important is that we were sharing your perspectives with the board. And so I think Kathy will kind of comment on that later, on how important it has been and how helpful it has been for them as a board to go back and watch the meetings or be present or see the notes or us do presentations at our board meetings to talk about your perspective. So thank you for that. Let's talk about one of the first things that we talked about. I went back and kind of looked over the broad range of topics that we talked about, and our second meeting that we had as a CAP panel was in February of 2021, and we talked about KUB considering getting into the fiber internet business. And so you all were among the first people in our community to know that we were considering it. We were going through the process, developing our business plans, our deployment plans, and you gave some really good feedback about how we might go about talking to the community, because at that point, we had not had community meetings yet. We were really just starting to get into that process. And, you know, thinking back to that time, we had already started using fiber in our electric system, but had not really considered providing fiber to internet to the home at that point. But it was a critical point in history and in our community. We were right in the middle of a global pandemic. We were hearing from the community that they were having difficulty accessing or having high quality internet service to do work, school, healthcare, a variety of things. And even that session we did virtually as a KAB. And so I think it just spoke to how important it was for us to go into the fiber business at that time. And so we're excited that we were able to get approval and launch that program. And we are actually celebrating our 1-year anniversary right now of lighting the first customer on the fiber system. So we're really excited about that. So about a year ago this time, we lit the first home in East Knoxville. And since that time, we've expanded to north, south, west, and up in Union County. So we are definitely making our rounds around our service territory and being intentional about how we move into those neighborhoods and helping support the community. So thank you for your feedback as we went through that process. And oftentimes you all asked for updates about where we were and what was going on. And so at this point, about 20% of our construction is complete. If you recall, we were going to be going through this process until 2030 or 2031. And so we're well on our way. We're doing a great job there. We've got about 4,500 customers that have chosen KUB Fiber as their provider, and we're getting excellent feedback about the quality of the service, their customer service experiences, and even in the times where we've got to go and tear up their yard to make sure that they have the service, how we're restoring yards and making sure that we're learning about those processes and making that better as we go along. So our plan, as we shared with you all, is to be offering the service to 90,000 customers by June of next year, so well on our way, and that progress will continue. And then we recently have launched our KUB Connected program, which is the program to provide free internet to students and low-income families. So we've launched that as a small pilot in 4 high schools here in Knox County: Central, Fulton, Austin East, and South Doyle. And so hopefully, as some of you continue, you can help us spread the word as we're trying to expand that to other schools and receive additional funding to provide that service to students. Today, the funding for that is through a federal affordability connectivity program, as well as the city is a major contributor. And so our hope is that as we grow the program, we'll also get additional funders for the program, because we know how important it is to provide that. So again, just thank you, because you were a big part of us going through this process. And so we hope you'll stay tuned in. And if you're not a fiber customer, when it passes you, you'll consider being our fiber customer. The next topic that I want to talk about, and Gabe mentioned this kind of in his opening remarks, is customer outages. As a utility, we know that's one of the major experiences a customer has. Our job is to keep the service on, but sometimes tornadoes and winds and rain don't agree with that. And so one of the things that we can do as a utility provider is, while those things are happening, communicate with our customers about what's happening, what's to happen, so that they can plan appropriately and understand what's going on. And so this group, we actually kind of did a little bit of different format when we talked about this. We split you guys off into focus groups and really asked what you wanted as a customer, what things you want to know, how often, and through what methods should you get information. And so we do have a project team actively working on how to provide that information through text message and email, and we hope that in 24 we'll start promoting that program. It's active, but we're making changes, and so we will definitely, as we are able to implement some of the other recommendations that you all made, start promoting that to the larger community. But we didn't want to just wait on the technical lift to be done. We already started kind of putting into place some of the things that you all recommended. So in August, when we had the tornado and winds and the associated weather in our area, we did start communicating a little differently on social media. So we were very intentional about talking about our restoration process, how that works, taking photographs at different stages of restoration, showing the conditions of the area so that the community could see what was really happening actively. In addition to that, we spent some time using automated phone calls to let customers know that we knew that they were out. We know that this is going to be a multi-day event. So that allowed them to plan and understand kind of where they were in the restoration process. And so all of that is a result of hearing from you all some of the things that would be helpful as a customer as you're experiencing an outage. And then in that event, because it was multi-day, we knew how critical it was to continuously have information going out. So we increased the frequency of how much we were getting updates and things out to customers through those two methods. And so I think it was definitely a learning experience for us, and it will influence the bigger project that we're going through. So thanks for your support in that. One of the other big topics that we talked about within this group is weatherization and energy efficiency efforts here at KUB. And I had to go back and look to see kind of how many homes we had weatherized when we started back in 2021. And so we were around the 1,800 mark at that point. And so we had done a tremendous amount of work with our partner, CAC. Barbara Kelly and her staff has helped us tremendously. When we first started, the city of Knoxville was heavily involved in that process. And so if you recall, when we started talking about this, we had gone through a season of having a wait list and then working down that wait list and then getting to a place where we didn't have as many applications as we expected to receive, but we had funding available. And so we really reached out to you all as a panel and said, help, we need your assistance in making sure that customers that need home energy upgrades to reduce their utility bill or create more comfort in their home, they need to take benefit of this. And so we got great suggestions from you all as a panel, but then we also engaged with SACE, Sierra Club, SEED, and you guys have been a tremendous help in getting the word out about the program and how it can be beneficial and helpful. And so since the 2021, when we started, over 800 additional homes have been weatherized, and so we're now at 2,600. And so we're proud of that work, and that work is continuing. Of that 800, 450 of those happened in the last year or so. So that's a lot of work, and I feel like a lot of that can be contributed to just you all getting the word out about it. So thank you for doing that. And speaking of getting the word out, I think our last big community event that we're hosting with SACE is coming up very soon, this weekend, November the 5th. At Imes Nature Center. So if you guys are in the area, we encourage you all to come by. SACE has done a really great job with their staff educating the community on this program, other programs related to the IRA and what funding is out there available, and really just working towards helping individuals, but our region as a whole, with making homes more energy efficient and reducing carbon footprint in our area. So appreciate you all for helping us with that. And as a result of all this outreach, we definitely have a good pipeline of applications now. So applause to you for helping us with that. And we now will probably do a little pause in applications at the end of November because we have a heavy list of homes to weatherize, and we want to make sure that we don't grow a waiting list again. So again, kudos to you all, and as we find other funding sources, we'll open those things up, and as our budgets and new dollars come on from TVA and our annual budget for weatherization, we'll open those applications back up. So thank you for that work. In addition to weatherization, energy efficiency and weatherization kind of fit together. And what we're really excited about, TVA recently announced that they were contributing $1.5 billion towards energy efficiency, demand response, electric vehicles, and so they have opened up energy efficiency rebates that at one point were a program that they offered that they ceased for a while, and so that is now open again. That opened just this month, honestly, at the beginning of, well, we're in November now, beginning of October. And so we've been getting the word out to customers about those rebates being available. So even if you can't get on the weatherization list, if you're able to finance through TVA and or have funding to do it, there are rebates to make some of those energy efficiency upgrades. So we're glad that TVA has brought those things back for customers. And so we've been spending a lot of time communicating about those incentives, as well as continuing our educational efforts on things that you can do in your home from an energy efficiency standpoint that doesn't really involve a lot of major upgrades, things you can do free or at low cost. And we've expanded that education beyond adults to children in elementary school, middle, and high school. So starting it early, so everybody's kind of on the mission to make sure that we're making good choices in our home from an energy efficiency standpoint. So I've said a lot of words, but all of those words are just to say you all have had major impact on how we've communicated with customers, how we've morphed and enhanced some of our programs, and so appreciate you all for that. I'm going to pass things over to Mark, and he's going to talk a little bit about the IRA.
Yes, you all may recall, of course, I think the IRA came out 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the things we talked to you all about was we needed to do a really deep dive on that to understand all that's available for KUB as an organization, for our community, for our customers, you know, incentives, rebates. And so we did hire a consultant, West Monroe, if you may recall, and they did spend about 4 to 6 weeks really doing a deep dive on that and came back and reported to us. And then we actually brought a couple representatives from West Monroe to the panel. That's probably late spring, if I remember correctly. And they did a presentation on a lot of specific things that are available to that. Really keen on some things that will be available to KUB, but really more importantly, things that are available to our customers in the forms of tax incentives for home energy efficiency, which are currently available, and then the still to come, I believe in 2024, rebates as well. And if you look at the numbers, and they, you know, those things can add up and really be beneficial and help fund home improvements, home energy efficiency improvements, electrification for our customers, which arguably now is more important than ever with, you know, here in the Tennessee Valley region. So the tax credits are currently available, and through the input, and part of that session that we had, I was gathering input from you, what are the best ways to communicate that to our customers? And so we've done a lot on social media, on websites. There's links to DOE information on this, and the amounts and how you go about applying and who all it applies to, what it will cover. And again, those rebates are a bit perspective now. Another thing we talked about was that as far as the administration of those rebates, which might be probably the bigger deal, for lack of a better term, because it's going to be maybe more applicable, particularly to lower income customers, that TVA has sought out and has applied to the State Energy Office to be the administrator of those rebates. That decision is still pending, as I understand. But I think the key for us and for you all as our representatives in the community, even if you're rotating off after this year, is to you know, talk about that. And we're doing our part, and Tiffany mentioned as part of SACE's workshops, they really have a very good segment of their presentation that goes into detail about the tax incentives, the various levels of rebates that will be available. So we need to continue to educate our customers about that, because there's a lot of savings out there, and potential savings on electric bills and in-home energy bills as a result of making these changes. So that's a big deal. Also on the grant side, as far as what KUB, one thing we talked to you about, that we were active looking at grants for all of our systems to help fund and projects, including our fiber build out, including work on our water and wastewater systems, part of our Century 2 work on our electric system, And the big thing there is the more money we can get in through grants, the less it has to come from our ratepayers on that. So we've had some success on that. We've about $42 million we've been awarded to date. 15 million of that has gone to rural broadband expansion, so it has allowed us to accelerate our fiber deployment and fiber services out into Union County and Granger County and some of those areas that don't even have broadband service available. So obviously there's a strong appetite for that out there, and those grants have allowed us to get out there sooner rather than later, so that's big. And then we have a large filter project at our water plant, and we do have about $25 million in grants that we've been awarded to help fund that, and that alleviates the burden on our water customers, and that's $25 million that doesn't have to come from our water ratepayers on that. So we continue to be active on that front, looking for opportunities, making applications for grants, because again, when it's all said and done, every dollar we get in, that's a dollar that our customers don't have to pay. So we continue to. We have our own internal team that meets biweekly and reviews where we are on grant opportunities and that. And we've got some big ones still in the applications, pending applications. One is for our gas system, which would be about $40 million. So anyway, so more to come on that, but we know that's very important for our customers. Now, fun stuff, solar. I remember because Chastity Hobby came and spoke to you all. I think we were over at the Public Service Center back in January of this year, and we were talking about our community solar project, the different aspects of it, and that we would be going live with that in April. And as Chastity went through her presentation, I remember the input we were getting from the panel was, well, this is great. It's going to sell out so fast. What are your plans for the next one? And y'all need to get going on that. And, you know, truth be told, after that meeting was over, a couple of us looked at each other and said, well, you know, it ain't going to happen that fast. Well, turns out you all were right and we were wrong. And that to date, we're 91% subscribed, and that's from both commercial, industrial, and residential customers. We have, I guess there's a total of 2,115 shares to be exact as part of the project. There's 200 remaining that are unsubscribed. So we continue to promote that. One thing we talked about in relation to the IRA is getting a tax credit, a direct payment credit from the IRA, from the Treasury, that would allow us to lower our capital cost associated with the project, and then we can lower the price that we charge for the solar. All that's still pending. I don't know why that's so darn difficult, but we continue to press on that and work on that. So that's still to come. But even aside from that, you know, the subscription rate has more than exceeded our expectations. But we will be looking for opportunities for additional community solar projects from a number of ways. One is, I know Kent and some other members of the Sierra Club we have met with and have talked about some properties in the area, in particular in, I guess, in South and the Vestal community. A number of sites, and those are all, what do you call them, Kent? They've been remediated by the DOE, partially remediated. No, but we have looked at those, in particular the Smoky Mountain Smelter site, and we have talked to the realtor that represents the owner of that, the new owner of that. We just haven't been able to connect and gotten a response back yet, but we have really tried to run to ground, I guess, you know, what those are, and we appreciate, you know, the panel and the Sierra Club in particular for bringing those to our attention. So we continue to look for that. Talk a little bit about Green Invest, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about community solar as part of expanded flexibility on that. But I think everybody understands the Green Invest program that is available through TVA, which was designed to allow local power companies, private companies in the Tennessee Valley to meet their sustainability goals. So we entered into 3 agreements. We actually started out, you may recall, with more agreements and had 502 megawatts of solar investment. A lot of things happened. Dr. Smith can attest to this in the solar industry over the last couple of years. A lot of volatility, a lot of price increases on that. So each of the developers of the projects we were a party to came back to TVA and said, we can't do it for the cost. It's a lot more expensive, and so we need to renegotiate these deals, or else we just aren't going to be able to move forward. TVA approached us, and we were able to work it out on 3 of the 4 sites. And so we had to modify our contracts for the 3. One that was out in far west Tennessee, the price increase that the developer was requesting was just astronomical. So there was no way we could go forward with that one. But we do have 3 projects. They are in various stages of construction that we're a party to. 2 of them are located in Mississippi, in relatively close proximity to each other. One is, I guess, in Columbus, Mississippi. It's called the Golden Triangle, and it's a 200 megawatt facility, and we have 70 megawatts of that project. It is due, and I haven't heard anything otherwise from TVA, it is due to come online in the summer of '24 on that. And so we're excited about that. There's another project in Mississippi, a 200 megawatt facility that is all KUB. We're the sole investor in that. And that will come online sometime in the spring of 2025, and that's 200 megawatts. And then our latest, which I'm not sure if construction has begun yet, is located in Tullahoma, Tennessee. It's a 55 megawatt project for us, 200 megawatt total. There are several partners to that, including the city of Nashville, Vanderbilt University, Jack Daniel's Distillery, as well as part of that. So that should be under construction, beginning construction relatively soon. It's due to come online sometime in 2026. So when you look at all of that 325 megawatts, and do the math, that represents about 14% of our total electric load once it all comes online for that. So we are excited about that, and we stand on top of TVA with that to make sure that things continue and to continue to progress. But first one on site, online in 2024. Another thing that I think we talked about some is, again, part of our partnership agreement with TVA was something called flexibility, where we were allowed to, permitted to self-generate, basically, through sustainability sources of generation, a small portion of our annual power supply. And I know we've talked about the percentages, but when it comes down to it, for us, it represented about 82 megawatts of our electric power load. If you look at it, depends upon how you want to define it. If you look at it average hourly capacity, it's 5%. If you look at it as total load, it's about 3.3%. So we are currently working with TVA on a couple of ways to use that flexibility. One is potentially converting some of our green invest to flexibility, given that there can be a significant financial advantage in doing that, and that you already know the price of the solar production that's already under contract for that, and we know the TVA cost that's going away. So there can be some significant savings for KUB and its customers on that. So that we're still having conversations with TVA about that. Now, we certainly wouldn't take the whole 82 megawatts and use our green invest for that. So we're also looking at, project sites on our system, potentially. We have hired a consultant in 7 states, to help us and to develop an RFP that we intend to send out by calendar year end to look for bids on projects in our area, to go out and identify places, and then eventually would result in us taking bids on one project or more projects for future solar. Now, as you know, that takes time, of course, but we're beginning with the RFP process. Erin Gill is now in charge of all of that now, so if you have any questions, you can ask her. But we're looking forward to that. We're excited about that and bringing new renewable sources. Part of that, use of that flexibility, we want to be for another community solar project. And so, again, perspective, future, but we think that's important. To that end, a couple of meetings ago, I know Dr. Smith mentioned and brought up the Solar for All grant program that is available. Can't remember the federal agency that's behind all that, but anyway, the timeline was very short on that. We talked about that. Aaron and Chastity have been talking to the city, talking to some other community partners on that. So we are somewhat a part of that. The state, TDEC, has submitted an application, and it's like $7 billion nationwide and basically the whole gist of that program is to have solar benefits available to disadvantaged and low-income communities. Okay, so the state's applied. We have sent a letter of support for the state's application on that, and the city of Knoxville would be considered, if the state gets that award, a subrecipient. And we have been talking with, again, the city, some other community stakeholders, agencies, about what role KUB can play. And it might entail small use of some portion of our flexibility in the form of a community solar project. And there's other options that we've looked at as well. Those awards are supposed to come out sometime, they say, in the spring of 2024. They don't always hold when they say they're going to be awarded, but we're looking forward to that opportunity as well, which could provide some solar benefits to our low-income customers. At the same time, through the use of that flexibility, provides some, it's another renewable source for our area. Low income can benefit from it, and also there can be a financial benefit for KUB's customers, on all electric customers as well. So we're certainly looking at that. So that's sort of a long-winded summary of where we are on some of our solar projects. Any questions or comments? A number of reasons, in that a lot of the equipment, the panels, are produced overseas in the Asian area, and we had tariffs that came into play. And then you had the pandemic and supply chain constraints. The demand was still there for the panels and the electronics and such, but with shrinking labor force, you have the impact of tariffs. It just drove inflationary pressures on solar equipment, panels, electronics, just went through the roof, basically. And so lead times were extended out. It's just sort of the pure supply and demand on that. And that has had an impact, and Stephen can probably speak to it better than I can. But
well, I think that's absolutely correct. In that window of where the supply chains were the worst, much of that now is clearing, and you're beginning to see, particularly on the panel prices, they're dropping back down. There's still some balance of system issues that are still being worked out, but think of it not as solar prices are going up. Think about it, in that period there was a bump, and now it's coming back down. And so solar prices continue on the trajectory of going down long term, and so they're still a great investment, but there was that that crunch that happened during the pandemic, as with everything, and inflation went out the roof. Did he answer your question? You're good. I have a couple. With Flexibility 2.0, have y'all looked at neighboring LPCs, local power companies, and tried to evaluate how much they're taking advantage of their 5% or 3%, whatever it is, depending on how you calculate it? We tend to think it's more like 3%. But is there an opportunity to partner with some of the neighboring utilities? I mean, I think it's great to do something in Mississippi, but I think as we bring some of that closer to home, I think it has more viability. And I think KUB being one of the larger players in East Tennessee, you all have the ability, I think, and you have resource capacity to be probably staffing capacity to be more innovative about approaching. And now that you've got Erin on board, she can figure all this out, right? So, but I think that you could, it seems to me that there'd be a way to aggregate and then go for a larger project, and you would not only help you with your overall cost because of the economies of scale, but then you would also be helping some of these other regional LPCs who are probably not gunning for it to potentially partner up and do it. What's the state of play there?
Yes, those are certainly options that are available under the Flexibility 2.0 Expanded Flexibility Program. I think, first of all, and we can look into those. We were going to look at our system first to have it in our service territory. I think that's probably our first pass at it to see what comes back on those. And then if, for instance, well, those prices are just, we think we can do better by maybe collaborating, whether a project located here or maybe in an area where there is more available flat land to do that, in Middle Tennessee and such, or wherever. I think that's an option as well. I think as we're going right now, Stephen, is first of all, let's get that RFP out. Let's see what's available. Let's see what sites, and then we'll go from there.
I would just add, we finally got TVA to respond to a series of questions that we had in the last couple of days. I'm going back to energy efficiency now. And I think that there's a lot of positive things in their program. One of the things that we pushed for was, if you have LPCs that are meeting or exceeding the home uplift program, and then you have others which we know aren't, what is your ability to move money around within that? And in discussion with Frank Rapley and crew over there, they actually signaled that there is, and that there is a high probability that there will be funds that are targeted for a particular calendar, with their fiscal year, that are not going to be fully utilized, and that, given that, to take KUB's credit, that they've not only met but exceeded the match, and that the 150 homes or whatever is the target. So we told them that, you know, our expectation would be that you would make the monies available as soon as possible so that you would not have gaps in doing the program. I hope, as I requested at the other meeting we were at not too long ago, that KUB is putting that same pressure on them, and it does look like maybe as early as the end of the first quarter of next year that TVA may be in a position where they could reallocate funds that would be available to sort of jumpstart this program back and keep some momentum going. And I don't know if y'all have got updates on that, but it was a pretty clear signal that we sent to them, and I hope that you guys are hammering that even harder to get those monies, because they're
Absolutely.
Because, and check on what Tiffany had said, because with regard to wait lists, we at CAC have a wait list of over 200 individuals that we're trying to push out to whoever may have some resources to cover them. But there is definitely a wait list for people, 203 that we have, and I think I can tell you, they're not all in Knox County. 123 of them are in Knox, 55 are in Blunt, 4 are in Loudoun, and 21 are in Rome. So, but clearly we are looking for resources to get to those as quickly as possible, because we have capacity to do the installations, and really it's just lacking the funding to be able to take those actions.
Yes, and I think it will ebb and flow over time, because when we first started talking about this, we had a plethora of funds but didn't have applications, and so I think we're going to consistently have those kind of ups and downs. But you're correct, Dr. Smith, and in the past, we have had situations where the allocation for other LPCs weren't fully utilized, and they have issued those additional funds to KUB, and we've utilized them. So our hope is that that would continue and that they would do that, but we haven't gotten an indication of when that might happen, if that will happen. And so we will stay in touch with them, because our goal is to use the funds. We have capacity with both our partners, CAC and Clear Results. So our job is to make sure that those dollars get spent, and we'll continue to ask for those funds being made available to us.
To maybe specifically, we are asking those questions as well. We are pressing. We will continue to press.
Yeah. And one last point, in probing TVA's rebates, one of our big questions is, as the 1.5 billion, which really you've got to tease a lot of that part, because only a portion of that is going towards residential. A lot of it's going to commercial, some of it's even going to charging and everything, which is great. But in that rebate program, which they have announced, the question we had is, what happens when the IRA funds, the $167 million that are coming as a state allocation to Tennessee, and KUB is advocating to manage those programs, then how do you manage those together? It appears, we were hopeful that the state would get off the dime and get that in queue, where we'd be looking at being able to promote those rebate programs in conjunction with what TVA is doing by the end of the first quarter of 2024. I think realistically, the earliest is probably the last quarter of 2024, probably more likely the first quarter of 2025. But TVA is prepared to stack those, and I think that stacking is going to have some real value, and I think in particular when you look at the HVAC systems, because if we're, and as we are, we're all pushing hard for heat pumps. Not all heat pumps are created equal, and the variable speed heat pumps are what's going to help avoid, some of these peaks that we're seeing in the winter, particularly with, like what we saw last year. And so it seems to me that that's going to take a real concerted effort to educate consumers. First of all, to get over the hump, you need to get a heat pump, but not all heat pumps are equal. You need to get a variable speed heat pump so that they don't just switch to resistance heat when it really gets cold. And it seems that there would be a value in having sort of a multi-player education, full court press going on, and we've got lead time to get that geared up. TVA is obviously giving the $1,500 on their HVAC and their rebate part. We'll have to see what the state and how the state works out, but it's to everybody's advantage, particularly as we try to phase out more fossil gas, which we need to have a serious conversation about, to get as many people switching away from fossil gas to heat pumps and making sure that they're hitting the right kind of heat pumps. And so it seems to me that that could be something that this group, going forward, in conjunction with TVA and everybody else, really focusing on helping people understand what a variable speed heat pump is and the fact that it makes a fundamental difference for managing peaks and stuff like that. And that should be, I think, a full court press that we're all working on.
I got a little question. Oh, I'm sorry, were you answering? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I've got this right, because I was listening carefully when you were talking about solar and solar for all, community solar, 5% flex. First of all, you have signed the 5% flex agreement with TVA as of now?
We have,
Oh, okay, great.
yes.
Yeah,
We
when-
took
when
that
did
to our
happen?
board a couple of months ago.
A couple of months ago, okay,
And we
great.
executed it promptly thereafter.
Great, thank you. So a community solar project could also be a flex project and could receive federal money through the Solar for All program all at the same time, right?
That is correct.
Great, that's my question,
Yes.
thank you.
That is a possibility, yes. Well, I just got one more, real quick, sorry. Just to let you know, our annual report, our ESG, Environmental, Social, and Governance report, has been completed for 2023. And we will be making that available. We're going to give copies to our board here in a couple of weeks at the November board meeting. And then it'll be on our website, and we will send you a link to that. We've looked it over. I think it looks pretty good. It not only talks about accomplishments and what we've done in the past, but it's also about going forward, what our goals are for by 2030 with respect to sustainability and many other factors, solar, many other things as well. So we will make sure you get the link to that when it's ready. And now I'm done.
You are an advisory committee to the Board of Commissioners, so we are happy that Kathy is here today to share some thoughts on their behalf.
Well, there it goes. Thank you, Dawn. I just wanted to bring thoughts from the board and just to tell you that as a board member in representing everyone, how grateful we are to you that you all have accepted the challenge to come serve on this board, to give us your thoughts. I will say that personally, as someone who served on a lot of boards, I am most impressed that you all agreed to serve on the first ever board of this kind, because usually when you accept board service, you have at least an idea of what you're getting into. You can talk to other people that have served on the boards, you kind of know what to expect. There's a little bit of a roadmap, and you all kind of paved your own road. And I really do appreciate, and the rest of the board appreciates you being willing to do that. I think it shows how much you have an interest in this topic and in serving your community and helping us to move forward. And it really is important for you to be here, because you represent not just yourself and your organizations, you represent a lot of different communities. And the more communities that we are hearing from, then the better we're able to serve our customers, because the more we know what is in their thoughts, what's important to them, and you all help bring that to us. And I also just want to say that from all the meetings that I've been able to attend and watching you all discuss and deliberate, I've learned even from the questions you ask. That tells me sometimes what we're not doing a good enough job at getting the information out and making sure everybody understands something. When you have questions, it means everybody else in the community has those same questions. So that is very, very valuable to us and helps us all to do a better job. And so again, thank you for your service. Thank you for being willing to come out and jump on the train for the first time.
We also want to thank those of you who expressed a willingness to stay on the train for at least 1 or 2 more years. KUB is going to be reaching out to those of you that do want to continue to confirm the terms and the meeting schedule for 2024. And you'll recall that now we're going to start staggered terms so that we don't have everybody leave one time. Like all of you had decided you didn't want to continue, we'd be starting all over. KUB is going to provide an orientation session to new members once they're selected. It'll include an overview of the organization, and that'll be early next year for the new members that will be joining us. And those details will be provided to you as well if some of you would like to kind of have a refresher course and join them. We'll have our actual first panel meeting in February. And we're going to miss those of you that are not continuing. I have enjoyed working with all of you this past year, and I'm looking forward to our February session. So unless we have any other comments or questions, we thank you for coming today, and we thank all of our presenters. And we will see you in February.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Beer